It's been about 6 years since I started on Omeprazole, PPIs, which is really crazy to think about. That's such a long time. I can't believe it's been so long. And I get a lot of videos, a lot of comments on some of my older videos when I spoke a lot about my hiatus hernia. I spoke about being on Omeprazole, about my options, surgery, all of this. And I've not done an update for a while, so this is kind of like an update on where I'm at. But also, I feel like I wanted to talk a little bit about long-term usage of Omeprazole and where sort of I'm at with it from my experience and what I've kind of understood from conversations with doctors. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm talking of my experience as a patient using Omeprazole. And what kind of sparked me doing this video today is, one, I've not done one talking about it for a while, but there was a article in the Daily Mail that came out. Excuse my slightly coldy nose and throat at the moment. I probably sound really out of breath. There have been some articles that have come out about long-term use using Omeprazole, and these articles, it's important to note, are about taking them unprescribed, because you can get Omeprazole in the UK just over the counter. Quite a confusing headline, because basically when you click on the actual article, it talks about going to see a GP to get diagnosed for something. Because the issue is, if you are taking Omeprazole and you're watching this video and you're just taking it without speaking to anyone, without having a diagnosis of whatever your symptoms are, the fear is you're masking those symptoms and you might have something that needs treating. So in my case, for example, I had an endoscopy and then I found out that I had a hiatus hernia, and then I realised that all the symptoms that I've been having for years and years and years sort of came down to this, and I needed to get treatment. Now at first, you might already know this from some of my older videos, but I was diagnosed, I think it was 2019, so 6 years ago now, maybe even a bit longer. I need to almost rewatch my old videos. Sometimes I forget myself and I'm like, what did I actually, like, my videos help me document like what's actually gone on. And at first it was supposed to be 2 tablets in the morning, 2 20mg tablets, and it still says it actually on my prescription, 2 to be taken twice daily. And that was a lot, you know. I'm in my 20s, and a lot of the research I was doing was a lot of people talking about taking it for life, but people who are in their 60s and 70s. And I'm in my 20s, I was mid-20s at the time, finding out that I'm now going to have to take a tablet for life, and I've never took anything for daily, apart from a hay fever tablet for like 2 months in the summer. I've experienced health anxiety in the past, which I've spoke quite a lot about, and I'm really passionate about sharing my story with it. Not passionate about health anxiety, passionate about sharing my experiences about health anxiety and sort of trying to help other people who've also had similar feelings. And learning that was obviously really anxiety inducing, and then I suddenly was on the spiral of like, what does this mean and everything. So hopefully this video breaks it down a little bit for you of what exactly, from my experience, does it mean, what I've done, any side effects or anything. So let's start with sort of just a quick history of it. So I was on that high dosage of 2 and 2, and I remember even when I spoke to my GP at the time, she was like, what? Like 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening? It just seemed like a really high dosage. But the guy who prescribed this for me, he kind of described it like I remember he described it as a boat, and he was like, your acid, and then the acid reflux was the water, and there was my hiatus hernia, I think it was like a little dash in the boat, and it would sink unless I took the Omeprazole, enough of it, because I remember being like, that's such a high dosage. So what happened after that, just to summarise the next few years, is I wanted to come off PPIs. I got a lot of comments on this channel, a lot of research, Reddit, probably not the best place, but also some horror stories about people breaking their bones and other things that have come from long-term PPIs. Because the thing is, I don't actually know when Omeprazole was even invented or made public, but I know that it's probably not been fully examined what the long-term effects of using Omeprazole are. So that's something in itself that, you know, is kind of like, not a test on me, but it's kind of like, you know, probably unsure what someone for, hopefully I'm going to live a very long life, that's the aim, for 60, 80 years is going to be using this tablet at such a high rate. So the options that after speaking to GPs, consultants, everything, because I've got a hiatus hernia, and that's the thing that needed treating. So if you've got something else, obviously your options will be different. You might have just GERD, or you might have something more severe called Barrett's esophagus. Barrett's esophagus is something I want to avoid at all costs, and therefore taking omeprazole every day for me was at first when I was first diagnosed, I was like, I'm going to take anything, because I had some inflammation on my esophagus and I had some polyps, and I just got really worried about some severe things that can come from bad esophagus health and hiatus hernias and all of that, and Barrett's esophagus being sort of the next stage of that. I never want that to happen. So if that does mean that I've got to take omeprazole forever, I will. However, I wanted to... So the conundrum is, how can I safely come off PPIs so that so that it eradicates my symptoms, and most importantly, my symptoms then leading to possibly Barrett's esophagus, which is something that people with hiatus hernia are more likely to get at some point. The only ways I could do that, I could see that happening, is surgery or lifestyle and this thing called Icuro. I'm not going to talk a lot about Icuro today because I've done lots of videos talking about Icuro. But long story short, it's a device that advertises that you can come off PPIs. I've done waves of it in the past and come off and on it, Icuro, and I'm restarting that process again. And I'm going to start posting videos about it. The other option is surgery. The surgeries, I've never had surgery, but the idea of a surgery scares the life out of me. It really does. And the one that's available on the NHS, which is free healthcare in England, well, there's two, but I think there's two from memory. It's actually been a while since I spoke to the surgeon, but I'm still under that doctor. The surgeons told me about them. Well, there was definitely one, the main one on the NHS. I forgot what it's called, but I remember it was low success rate and incredibly invasive, and sometimes can make it worse. So nothing was stacking up. I was like, why does this even exist? I was like, if I can take omeprazole every day and avoid that, for me that just sounds right now what I want to do, especially being so young. It just wasn't something that I wanted. But there is another surgery called link surgery, which was another option. I don't know where that's at, because it's actually been a couple of years since I spoke to my surgeon, but it's not available in the NHS, so I would have to pay for it. It's not a crazy amount from my understanding, and it's a lot less invasive, recovery time a lot quicker, and the success rate higher. So I don't know why it wasn't available on the NHS. It just doesn't make sense to me. The conversation with my surgeon was around, am I managing my symptoms on omeprazole? And I am. Omeprazole just seems to suck it all up, get rid of everything, and I just don't have any symptoms that I had before when I take it. And of course, sometimes if I'm doing an ab workout, because I really want to keep fit and I'm trying to get fitter, and I'm really trying to work on, I've just entered my 30s, so I'm really trying to focus on my running and my weights and everything, and just try and focus on getting fit. You're not actually supposed to do weights or sit-ups or anything like that, so sometimes I do notice my acid reflux get worse if I'm doing one of those things, so then I'll just take an extra omeprazole. Or for example, I was recently on an all-inclusive holiday and the drinks were so citrusy, so I was actually taking 2-3 a day. I should not even said, but I came down, I skipped a big part of the story. On my omeprazole, through lifestyle and Icuro, I came down from 4 to just 1 a day. So that's what I currently take as I have to take my 1 a day, or I do notice a difference straight away. I've not managed to change my lifestyle enough that I can completely eradicate my omeprazole. And also I think it would scare me a little bit, just not having anything right now. And the Icuro, I still don't know where I'm at with it. So I'm on my 1 a day, it's working, and no side effects. I've had no side effects from omeprazole. I do a few things to sort of help. So I take some supplements. I take vitamin D3, vitamin B12. I did take calcium tablets at one point, but I've stopped, and I'm just trying to have calcium in my diet. The reason is because what I understand is omeprazole, not a doctor, but what I understand is omeprazole strips away a lot of the goodness from food. And calcium especially, but vitamin B3, B12 from meat and all of that other stuff. So that's how people end up with long-term things like fragile bones and stuff like that. I've not had any of these problems yet. I'm a lot fitter, but a lot more active than I was when I was diagnosed. And I don't know if that's subconsciously because I want to just make sure I'm maintaining my fitness, but I don't know if that's helped, but I've not had any problems with bone pain, joint pain, nothing. I've had no other symptoms as well of any of the other side effects. So very lucky, because I know that some people have really bad side effects and then it's kind of a different situation. It's like maybe you need surgery. But because I was in this situation where it's working, don't want to have an invasive surgery, and the only one available in the NHS isn't great, with a terrible success rate, it was kind of a no-brainer that the only option I seem to have is try and do whatever I can lifestyle changes and maybe try this Acuro thing. And then we'll revise maybe in a few years. And he said the door is always open. Maybe links will be available on the NHS at some point. Great. Or maybe, you know, there'll be some change in other way. Or maybe there'll be a difference. I've had a few endoscopies in like the last 6 years just to check how my hiatus hernia is going. And there's a few times when I noticed like a change in my acid reflux, and I think because I'm just hyper aware with my health anxiety of what Barrett's esophagus is, I was like, I'm getting tested. And my doctor was straight away fast-tracked me through, which was really surprising every time. So I've had about 4, I think, or 5 endoscopies in total, surely 4, which is a crazy amount because it's a horrific experience, and I've done videos talking about them on my channel, so feel free to find them. But for me, it was just like worth that horrible experience to know that everything's okay. So because I've had that and I just knew everything was okay, even coming down to the 1-a-day tablet, so just lots of good vibes and good things, that's where I'm at. So far over the 6 years, no side effects. I've come down to 1 a day, sometimes take 2, sometimes take 3 if I'm really struggling, but I don't remember the last time I took 4 omeprazoles in 1 day. I have no recollection of that at all. And hopefully everything inside is okay, but from the progression of the endoscopies, I know that everyone got better. Like there was less inflammation. I had scarring on my first endoscopy, which had gone by the last ones, and the polyps were all taken out. So very positive in that respect. So here's where I'm at the moment. It does feel a little bit test on me, like the fact that I've just turned 30. So I do know that my diet isn't perfect. And I do know that I could maybe make even more extreme lifestyle choices. Like, for example, when I first got diagnosed, I was like, no caffeine, I'm not going to have this, I'm not going to have that, because there's a list of things that you don't have. Kind of still have caffeine, sorry. And I kind of still have some other things that are on the list. And I try and eat healthy, but because I've been in my 20s, I think I've just been like, you know, like I just want to still enjoy my life. Whereas now, I've entered 30, and I think I'm just going to try and be a little bit more mindful of what I'm eating and what's going inside my body, because I think that's important. So maybe that and my newfound Acuro, my 3rd attempt, I think, at Acuro will help even more. And maybe one day I'll be able to just come off omeprazole completely. I doubt it. And I do think at one point I'm going to be like, let's do the links. Let's just try and get rid of this hiatus hernia once and for all, and let's see what happens. But even then, some people still have to take omeprazole. So there's a very real possibility that unless there's some big changes within, you know, medicine, within this, you know, gastroscopy, I can't say the word, my hiatus hernia and all of that stuff, I probably will be taking omeprazole for the rest of my life. So I have no idea what's going to happen. But what I can say is that at least I know that I've got my symptoms under control, and right now I don't have any side effects. So let's touch wood that never changes, and I'm doing this video 6 years from now, and I'm just like, everything's great, even better in fact. And they'll just be for the next 60 years, you'll join me on this journey on YouTube talking about my hiatus hernia and my omeprazole. But what I would love from anyone watching this, firstly, if you're not diagnosed, so firstly, if you've not been diagnosed with anything and you're watching this and you take omeprazole and you're just wondering what I do and how I've been with it, please stop. The clickbait article is right. Go to see your GP, because omeprazole masks symptoms. Like, for example, before your endoscopy, you're not even supposed to take omeprazole for a few days because it can mask some things that are going on. But if you have been diagnosed with something like a hiatus hernia, I would love to read some more stories. I've read some of them on Reddit, but most of them are, again, from people who are at least 40s plus, if not older. Very few people I've read who have been taking omeprazole for longer than maybe 20 years. Don't know how old PPIs are. Maybe that's how old they are. But I would just love to hear some. And there are some positive stories of people who are saying, you know, they're in the 50s, taking omeprazole for 20 years, in the greatest shape of their life, no problem, everything's under control. So maybe that's also you. So please share that story, because it always just makes me feel a little bit better when I'm ever worrying, because I can look back at these comments. But also just anything, you know. I found out about Icuro through someone on YouTube. So share these things. Let's make this comment section just like all of the ideas, all of the experiences, so we can just come back to it and just be like, you know, here's where everyone is who takes PPIs and omeprazole. But yeah, thank you for watching. I've just reached 2,000 subscribers recently, which I'm super chuffed with. So thank you so much for that. I think I'm on 2010 already, and I like it, which was just amazing, because I just didn't look for a few days, and I was like, oh, I've crossed that like gatekeeping 2,000 that I was trying to cross for literally ages. So if you've subscribed, I really appreciate it, and it's made my day. But if you're not subscribed, then subscribe, and yeah, just let me know anything you'd like me to talk about, or anything that takes your interest. If you've lots of things I've spoken about today over the last 6 years, I've been worrying about at some point, from my health anxiety, my endoscopy, my hiatus hernia, Icuro, and there's loads of videos on my channel of sort of like my in the moment experiences with them, so some of them might be there. And a final thing, actually, I should just say, with omeprazole, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but you can get it over the counter as well, and you can get it prescribed. I think I might have already said that, but probably a good just thing to clarify just at the end. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.